So Michael Cohen, of course, was the personal attorney for Donald Trump, and his office, his hotel room, and his home were all raided. They have all of his documents. Donald Trump is in an absolute panic. Breaking news that just happened right before we went live. Rudy Giuliani is going to join Donald Trump's personal legal team. So former mayor of New York and an attorney in New York joining Trump's team. Now that turns out to be very relevant to the story I had already prepared for you guys. Because Michael Cohen, first of all, might at some point flip on Donald Trump. We'll get to that in a second. But some people also thought, well, it's okay, the president can pardon him. And there's double jeopardy, and a person can't be tried for the same crime twice. So if the president pardons him, the state of New York might not be able to prosecute Michael Cohen. Well, first of all, let's take a look at that. Because right now the case is in federal hands, not at state hands, and that's important. So Law and Crime explains, under the US Constitution, it's perfectly fine for a person to be prosecuted in state court following a federal prosecution for the same crime, because states have their own authority. So it actually would not be double jeopardy. So if the federal government prosecutes Michael Cohen, but Donald Trump pardons him, the states could go after him as well. But in New York, there's a law that affects this and is actually would normally help Michael Cohen. So in New York, state law prohibits the prosecution of a person in state court when that person has already been prosecuted for that same act, even if the original prosecution was a federal one. So in New York, you have extra protections. And so Michael Cohen could say, well, I mean, look, the feds already tried me on this, so New York State can't do anything here. Well, here comes the Attorney General for New York, Eric Schneiderman. And he just sent a letter to the governor and a group of legislators asking them to change New York state law so that if Trump pardons Michael Cohen, there won't be any procedural hangups to hinder a state prosecution of Cohen. Now, given that Eric Schneiderman is not a big fan of Donald Trump, he prosecuted Donald Trump for Trump University and got a civil settlement of $25 million. That just happened a little while back, and he'd actually been pursuing that case since 2013. So for him, it's not political. He's just going after a scam artist. And then you've got Cuomo, who might run for president, who would love to show that he's being tough on Trump. And you've got the Democrats running in New York. So amending that law seems eminently doable. So then Michael Cohen would be exposed under New York state law and in a world of trouble because then he couldn't be pardoned. So, Law and Crime explains that federal prosecutors intentionally backed away from prosecuting some crimes to preserve those prosecutions for state prosecutors. That'd be a brilliant way to circumvent the power of an impending pardon. So, there's a second option for federal prosecutors. If they get a sense that Trump is going to pardon Michael Cohen, they could just choose not to prosecute him. They could just hand it off to New York, and New York can prosecute him. So, oops, that means that Michael Cohen, in essence, cannot be pardoned by Trump, or that Trump's federal pardon would be meaningless and Michael Cohen would be facing an enormous amount of jail time instead. So whether New York's going to go after him is relevant. It's relevant to the Giuliani story, and it's going to be relevant to this next part of the story. Wall Street Journal reporting, one of President Donald Trump's longtime legal advisors said that he warned the president in a phone call Friday that Michael Cohen, Mr. Trump's personal lawyer and close friend, would turn against the president and cooperate with federal prosecutors if faced with criminal charges. And by the way, he will almost certainly be faced with criminal charges. So now whether this guy is right is an open question, but he knows the president, he knows Michael Cohen. Here's more details. Mr. Trump made the call seeking advice from Jay Goldberg, who represented Mr. Trump in the 1990s and the early 2000s. Mr. Goldberg said he cautioned the president not to trust Mr. Cohen. On a scale of 100 to 1, where 100 is fully protecting the president, Mr. Cohen, quote, isn't even a 1, he said he told Mr. Trump. Wow. He's like, do not trust that snake at all. Well, the reason he's Trump's lawyer in the first place is because he's a snake. Trump wanted him because Michael Cohen would be willing to do things that other lawyers were not willing to do. And would a guy like that turn on him? Well, Trump's previous lawyer is saying, of course he's going to turn on you. On a scale of 1 to 100 on how much you should trust him, less than a 1. Wow. Goldberg told the president, quote, Michael will never stand up for you. Now, before the raid, Michael Cohen was tweeting, I'm always going to stand up for the president. And Trump told Goldberg, no, I think Michael's very strong, very strong. And good luck with that. And by the way, Goldberg also told Trump, whatever you do, do not talk to prosecutors. That's a really bad idea. Trump's like, why? I'm going to outsmart Mueller. This is something that he's told advisors in the past. And Goldberg, his previous attorney, is like, no, you are not. Don't talk to them, whatever you do. And he knows his client. He knows his client is a pathological liar and an idiot and would say all sorts of incriminating things to the prosecutors. So let's hope he doesn't listen to Goldberg on either one of these counts. Anyway, in the call, Mr. Goldberg, a former prosecutor who represented Mr. Trump in divorce and real estate matters, said he told the president Mr. Cohen could even agree to wear a wire and try to record conversations with Mr. Trump. He said, quote, you have to be alert. I don't care what Michael says. So he's saying, look, and the president did talk to Michael Cohen recently. So he could be wearing a wire. You know, Trump, he's a buffoon. He's like, hey, Michael, what are you doing? You're still being strong, right? Well, you're going to protect me on all the things we did, right, Michael? Oh, please tell me that you were that stupid. Here's his former lawyer knowing Trump going, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't talk to him. Okay, awesome. Now, a little context for you guys. Speaking from his experience as a prosecutor, he said even hardened organized crime figures flip under pressure from the government. Quote, the mob was broken by Sammy the Bull Gravano caving in out of the prospect of a jail sentence. And Goldberg's reference there is basically implicitly saying, and Michael Cohen ain't no Sammy the Bull Gravano. And if they can break him, they'll break Michael Cohen so quick. He suggested, and this is interesting, Goldberg suggested that Mr. Trump add a well-known New York lawyer to his legal team. And the reason for that sound advice, you can't pardon your way out of New York State. So if the New York prosecutors come to get you, in this case, they'd go to get Michael Cohen, and some of the things that he could be charged with, campaign violations, bank fraud, and let alone the potential threats of violence against Stormy Daniels. But even if you put that aside, he's still facing potentially decades of prison time, and he can't be pardoned in the state of New York. So tick, 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 and Goldberg's like, get a New York lawyer. And today, as I just told you, Giuliani, a New York lawyer, is stepping up and becoming part of Donald Trump's legal team. This is not going to end well for Donald Trump. You just watched the video by the Young Turks, home of the revolution. If you'd like to get a lot more than that, get the full show by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.